I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Commissioner Alms,
Present.
Commissioner Sue,
Present.
Commissioner Blankenship, Commissioner Frankum, Commissioner Herman,
Here.
Commissioner Wonder, Commissioner Scafoni, Commissioner Murphy, Commissioner Daugherty, and
Here.
Commissioner Sotilli,
Here.
and our council liaison, Mayor Peter Weiss. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we know that Commissioner Herman, are you that phone number 470-044?
Yes, that is me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Herman. I'm going to designate an alternate because we need one. So Commissioner Doherty, if you would be our designated alternate. Do you accept that?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. And then don't believe we have any numbers, unidentified numbers, but if I'm going to ask if there's any public comments. No, because everyone is accounted for now. Great, okay. All right, so items for discussion. Let's move on. Action items. Oh, approval of minutes for the October meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
Oh, there you go. Oh, all in favor? Are you going to call for that? Go ahead.
We'll need to do an individual roll call because of the meeting format.
Oh, do you want me to roll call or Marissa?
Marissa can do that.
Okay.
Commissioner Alms,
Yes.
Commissioner Sue,
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenship, yes. Commissioner Frankum, Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Wonder,
Yes.
Commissioner Scafoni, Commissioner Murphy, Commissioner Doherty,
Aye.
and Commissioner Sotilli.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we get a confirmation, I think, from Commissioners Murphy and Chiffon?
And it appears, Commissioner Chiffon, that we don't have a mic for you. So Commissioner Murphy, could you sorry, we're just making sure that everyone's working. So it looks like Commissioner Chiffon does not have a mic. It's true? That's how it appears. Okay. And then Commissioner Murphy, are we waiting for her to confirm, or what were we waiting for? Did we want her to?
She's clearly on.
Okay. Okay, well, we cannot hear you, Commissioner Murphy, if that is whatever's going on there. All right, so should we move on? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the Parks and Rec proposal, or the projects proposal. And that's Mr. Olson.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Good evening, Chairperson Sue, members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Good to be with you. Those that are here, good to see you. Those that are joining us virtually, look forward to seeing you again in the future. I'd like to welcome our mayor. Good to have him here as our liaison this year. It's my privilege this evening to present for your consideration the Parks and Recreation Capital Improvement Projects, the update to our previous meeting that we had a couple months back. So the synopsis, staff recommends that the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend for City Council adoption the Parks Fees Capital Improvement Projects for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. Now, just a little background information. The Capital Improvement Project program for the city is a 5-year program, and just how that is funded is $4,431 per unit that is built in Oceanside. Those fees are collected at the time the building permit is issued. The developer fees must be utilized that are collected from that. They must be utilized within a 5-year period of time. If that is not done, the developer has the ability to request a payment back if those funds are not utilized in the appropriate fashion and time frame. Council adopts and appropriate funds for the first year of the 5-year program, and subsequent years may be planned in terms of money forecasted, but it is not funded or allocated so that it can be adjusted as the needs of the community change or situations come up that were unforeseen. The ongoing projects that are in progress that we reviewed last time is the Buccaneer Park improvement. As we mentioned before, there are a lot of projects going on down there. Some are with the city, some are with other agencies that we partner with and work together, but that money allocated is primarily set aside to rebuild the bathrooms and some other facility improvements around that area. Also, the El Corazon Aquatics Center, $24 million project that you'll be getting an update on with Jesse's report here in a little bit. That's funded and allocated. Now, review of the projects that we have going for this year, just by way of information. The Parks and Recreation Commission approved the following projects, and the City Council appropriated funding for 2021. Mance Buchanan Lights at $1 million. Parks Master Fee Study at $50,000. A dog park study, John Landis Recreation Center study, pickleball facility study, which possibly can be utilized for some construction. I know they do have a project that's working through the process now, and then a pump track study. That's the current year process, and I want to give you an update as to where those stand. Now, a lot of people have always asked, what is a pump track? So I'm presenting a picture so people can get a visual of what that is, because I'm sure I'll get that question, so I wanted to provide that. That's a pump track. It's designed for wheeled devices to learn to pump through, similar to a skate park, but it can be used for all wheeled devices, and it teaches balance, it teaches body movement, things of that nature. So that's kind of a layout. That one is actually in Carmel Valley, so it's very close to us, and it's a local one that many people attend. Here's some other options for those. Some are on dirt, and some come in a prefabricated version that can be placed on either grass or concrete. So just to give you an idea, as I anticipated that question coming up, so I wanted to kind of toss that in there. Now, the status of the current projects. Last time I talked, we had talked about how there was no progress for the 2021 year and that the city was working on hiring a consultant to manage the park's CIP projects for this year and dedicated that consultant directly to it. After receiving bids and receiving consultant qualifications, the city engineer has determined that it would be more appropriate and more financially wise to hire a staff position as an associate engineer to oversee all the parks and recreation, or the parks capital improvement projects. Again, that will cause a little bit of a delay, but the position has been approved and should post this week with the anticipated start of that individual sometime in February. So again, it will be a small delay to getting things going for the 2021 capital projects, but I wanted to provide you that update because that was a change from the last presentation I gave to the commission on our direction that we were heading. So we're here to present the fiscal year 2021-22 proposed projects. Our proposed projects include pump track design at $200,000, John Landis Recreation Center design, and just to refresh your memory and for those who may not have been on the commission, John Landis Recreation Center is a facility that has not been online for about 10 years now. Through the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was adopted last year, it was identified that a need of the city in that area was to bring that facility back online. Because it has been quite some time, there will need to be vast improvements to ensure that that facility can function and serve the needs of the community and the needs of the city in the manner that it was intended. And so that is what we are recommending. Again, the Buccaneer Park construction will continue to remain on the project list until which time those projects come forward. That again is at $1 million. Dog park design, that's a continuation of the study that was recommended for 2021. And then a trails master plan, that was something that the Parks and Recreation Commission has been speaking of repeatedly for quite some time. And we felt it would be appropriate to allocate money to that to get that started. It was also called out in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which I believe is where the Parks and Recreation Commission kind of picked up from that. And then as well, shade structures at parks and different facilities for improvement that we've estimated at potentially $250,000 to be utilized at various city parks to provide shade and to provide other amenities that will help individuals enjoy our parks. So a total of $2.45 million for fiscal year 2021-2022 on proposed projects. Just by way of information, other funding that comes out of that capital fund would be the Parks Projects Administration. That would be for the staff or the consultant. As again, I remind you, we are transitioning towards hiring a staff person to oversee these parks projects. Also, park enhancements. This is a small fund that's allocated every year for small things such as new benches or other small amenities that could improve a park's performance or a park's ability to be enjoyed by our residents and visitors. And then the annual Coastal Rail Trail City Match. This is funded annually for the design of the coastal rail trail that runs through Oceanside. So our recommendation is that the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend for City Council adoption the Parks Fees capital improvement projects for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the commissioners.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask this kind of broad question, and then you know me, I have like a ton of other questions, but it seems bizarre to be talking about spending more money on things that have not even been studied. So like on many of these things we have studies or, yeah, we have like 5, for the 2021, we have 5 studies that are supposed to happen. And now we're looking at like, okay, well, let's just design them. And that, where it seems kind of like we're voting on things that we can't even vote on. So can you speak to that a little bit of just like, because we're so behind on 2021, how do we move forward with 21-22?
Excellent question, Chair Sue, members of the commission. The challenge is we have one time to recommend funding for projects for consideration for the city council.
Right, so it's now or never.
Yeah, so if for some reason we are way behind on this fiscal year's projects, we do hope to make progress once we can get that individual lined up and start moving on them. The challenge was if we do not allocate funding in the next fiscal year, we would then have to wait an entire year to recommend additional funding. So that's the concern with that.
Yeah, I understand not wanting to like miss out on our chance, but it also just seems difficult to vote on something when we're like, yeah, let's design it when we don't know where it's going or what's going to happen. But I guess, yeah, we'll allocate money for it. But yeah, so let's go. Questions, Commissioner. I think this is telling me that someone has their hand raised. Is that real life? Great. Commissioner.
Yes, that's me, Terry.
Great. Commissioner Sotilli, what is your question?
I have a question on the pump track study. Is that going to be used for handicapped people, or is that just for like skateboarders or bicyclists?
That would be awesome.
Commissioner Sotilli, Chair Sue, members of the commission, depending on which surface and how it's designed, it can be used by all wheeled devices. And so that would certainly be a consideration if this moves forward, is to ensure accessibility to all patrons and all individuals of varying abilities. That would be something that we would certainly study and ensure. You know, it does have things to do with location, what are the topographical things, but it can be used, the appropriate surface can be used by anybody in a wheeled device.
Okay, and I have one last question is the dog park study. Seems like we've been proposing that for a couple of years now and nothing's been done. Does that mean things will finally get moving now, or is it just hanging on like it usually does?
Commissioner Sotilli, Chair Sue, members of the commission, the study is allocated for this fiscal year, and unfortunately, progress has not been made on that. But the study would be done, and then the design would be the next component of the information that comes out of the study.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Herman, do you have a question?
Yes, I have 3 questions.
Great.
The $4,431 per unit fee, is that collected on hotel rooms that are built in the city as well, or just residential dwellings?
I believe it's just residential dwellings.
So the hotels get a pass at that?
I think there's other development fees. I can't speak to the specificity of that, but I can follow up and get information on that.
Okay, thank you. Second question is the dog park design. Do we have a location for that identified?
Commissioner Herman, Chair Sue, members of the commission, that's what the study that is scheduled for this fiscal year is designed to identify: locations, potential one large one, numerous small ones. So that would be the study that's in this fiscal year that would define what type and what location could feasibly hold a facility such as that.
Okay. Third question is, in the discussions of the fees that are collected, you mentioned the 5-year use that it has to be utilized by, otherwise it can be refunded to the developers. Given the delays in the 2020 projects, is there any danger in us losing funds and having them be pulled back from our funds and use?
Commissioner Herman, Chair Sue, members of the commission, that's not been explained as a concern to me by the Development Services Department, so I do not believe that's a concern at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Following up on the fee question, one of the main concerns with passing the Parks Master Plan was that we would get to increase the development fees. Has that happened? And is this the current, or is this the increased, or is this the one that is waiting to be increased?
Chair Sue, members of the commission, this is the current fee that is collected by the city. There is an ongoing fee study in Development Services to adjust that to reflect the current time. I think it's quite old, but that's ongoing right now.
Okay.
But the fee stated is the current one that's collected.
And that has been for previous to the Parks Master Plan?
That is correct, Chair Sue.
Okay. Are there other questions from those off premises? Okay. Can you talk about the Trails Master Plan? And that, because that's something that I wish I'm gonna ask another question. Commissioner Frankham stepped out, so I'm gonna wait until Commissioner Frankham comes back so we can, because he's our trails guy. So I'm gonna wait till he comes back so he can be a part of that conversation. You're talking about shade structures, $250,000. Do you have any idea of how many that would, and like does that buy us like 2 or 1 or?
Chair Sue, it's an excellent question, members of the commission. It just depends on what areas are identified and what the structure needs are for that. So it's hard to really identify how many that is.
Okay.
It could be 2, it could be 12, based upon the structure and the needs of the different parks. So as part of the process, we would identify areas and then bring that back to the commission members for their approval or their feedback, and obviously with associated costs.
And does that fall under you or Public Works?
Currently, that's under Public Works at this time, but we work with them directly in terms of identifying locations, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just like to, Public Works, I would like for them to come to one of these meetings and talk about shade structures so that can be a conversation that, I know that you guys do work closely, but I always just feel like it's better if they can be here in the flesh. And the same with the park enhancements. And here it's $10,000. I understand that that's not part of the budget that we're looking at right now.
Chairman Sue,
Yeah,
I don't know how to raise my hand,
that's
but I
okay.
do have a question.
Just if you have a question, go for it.
This is Janae Alms. Mark, as far as the shade structures, could it include planting of trees in areas that could offer the shade, or is this specifically for building shade structures that is construction work?
Commissioner Arms, Chairperson Sue, members of the commission, the intention was for structures that would provide shade. It's been a long requested item here at the commission as well as from the public. And so the idea and intent behind that would be to provide structures that would provide immediate shade.
And who would be the group that would decide which parks get those shade structures? What are the requirements to get a shade structure?
Commissioner Alms, Chairperson Sue, members of the commission, we would work with Public Works, Parks and Recreation staff, as well as Public Works. Park staff would work in identifying locations, and then we would invite companies to give us price bids and varieties that could go into different facilities, and then we would review based upon what the budgetary aspects of those quotes would be, and then hope to present something for approval to this commission.
I have one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Will the new person who you're hiring to be over the improvement projects or park projects, would that be the person that if a community was interested in getting a shade structure in their area, they would communicate with that person?
Commissioner Alms, members of the commission, the individual that will be hired will be to facilitate the projects moving through the project process. I would anticipate that we would be the liaisons to get the information from the public and then work with that individual. So that person won't necessarily be the right person to field it because they may not have the specific expertise, but it would be the process of moving these projects through the process to completion.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Alms. Now that Commissioner Frankham is back, I wanted to ask about the Trails Master Plan. So this is something that we previously asked about, and we're told that it was kind of beyond us, that this is a citywide thing, that this was part of the city master plan, but now it's here. So can you talk a little bit about how that happened? Yeah.
Absolutely, Chair Sue, members of the commission. This was added because it has been repeatedly brought up by members of this commission, as it was explained, that the city is doing a general plan update, and there's a lot of elements to that. One is the mobility and transportation. It was identified that that could be included in that, but based upon the feedback from This commission, as well as in the previous meeting and meetings before that, and also being identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, we included that to perhaps jumpstart that process. We currently do not have a Trails Master Plan, and so this would be a large project, but one that has been requested by evidence in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as well as members of this commission here.
Yeah, and the Parks Master Plan, speaking mostly that this is something that the community has really requested, like more trails and better planned trails. I think my concern with seeing this on here is I don't want a Trails Master Plan that just scratches the surface. Is that this is obviously something that we need, a Trails Master Plan, but I think it's also been pitched to us that this is so massive and requires so many different agencies. I mean, Commissioner Franken, maybe that's something that even you can speak to, but like, is this something that we should move forward? Is this gonna be, are we the right people to do this? Or is this, yeah, how does that work? What do you think?
I'm not a direct insider in the trails planning in this community, but I would like to see a more detailed plan, a plan that looks into the future pretty far, and a plan that looks deep into the community to establish the kinds of possibilities that exist. I was thinking the other day of a power line easement that runs through much of the city that would seem to me to be worth considering. I saw, when I go up 76, I see an impromptu, I guess it's an ad hoc trail that's not the right term either. There's this informal trail that's muddy in the winter, but is very, very well used in the summer, that runs right along the power lines that essentially parallel El Camino. So I think we need to look at all possibilities, and I would hope that we would employ a consultant that does that. I mean, it would be my assumption that they would anyway. And while I have the floor, I wanted to mention that as you know, I also serve on the Bikeway Pedestrian Advisory Committee to our city council, and we've talked about a pump track for I don't know how many years, and then it's very gratifying to see it advance to this point where it's being considered and some funding is actually being put behind it, or recommended at least. Nothing has been expended yet. We have, members of our committee have gone out and looked at prospective places. I don't know to what extent that's been imparted to staff or others, but I suspect there's been some movement that way, and it's being considered. So that's very nice to see that happening. I went to I've mentioned before that I went to all the public scoping meetings for the Parks Master Plan over that 2-year period. And the one thing I heard definitely loud and clear every time was dozens of people speaking in favor of trails and trails that go someplace. Every developer who submits a proposal to our city includes, for proposal purposes and for marketing purposes, that they will include a trail. And then you look at the plan, and it's a trail that goes around the outside of their development. Trail, using the word loosely in that case, trails work when they connect. And that's what we need to be looking at in a trail master plan study. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that we've talked, I also in those meetings and in this meeting, this body, I've mentioned before that a lot of people would like to see more enhancement of our pickleball capabilities in this city, the facilities. And so I'm glad to see some revenue being directed that way also.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Franken. Yeah, I think that the last thing that I was, is there anyone that has, Commissioner Wonder, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mark, in regards to the park enhancements, does this include Heritage Park? Because as we know, that is a well-deserved park that needs quite a bit of enhancements. So is there any details about Heritage Park and what we're going to do with that?
Commissioner Wonder, Chair Sue, members of the commission, the park enhancement can be utilized at any park in the city that's identified to have a need. So that Heritage Park would certainly qualify, and you are right that Heritage Park is one of our cherished facilities, and that does need to be upkept, and we will have an update on Heritage Park in the next report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Herman, do you have any other questions? I just see that your mic is not.
Not at this time.
Okay, just making sure.
Thanks.
I think just park enhancements, when we see that, to me, I feel like there's, as a young mom in the city of Oceanside, when I go to the playgrounds and when I go to the parks, it feels like so often our parks, our playgrounds are so close to excellency, but are really just missing a couple of key components. So I'm so glad to see shade on here, because I feel like every Oceanside mom is probably glad to see shade on here because it's hot. But there's little things like more, like you said, more benches, more trash cans, better trash can placement. So I think park enhancements, when I see this, I want to know more. And I also want this number to be bigger, because as much as those enhancements are little, they also add up. So I think that is one of my concerns in this, even though that's not under our budget, just wanting to really have our parks be excellent. The other thing that I think of when I see this, and I'm not sure if all of our commissioners are aware of this, but splash pads are like one of the hottest items that a park can have. And Oceanside, you would think, doesn't have any, but Oceanside does have a splash pad. It's just never ever been turned on because the way it was built wasn't recycled water. It's just something that's so silly to me. And another example where I feel like Oceanside is so close to being excellent and then just misses the mark. And I think that is something that I would love to see in here or in the park enhancement. I don't know where you put it. But it's like those just little tiny touches that I think could really just make our parks wow worthy. And so as much as I want to see these big studies that are $300,000, I also know that just little things could really improve our parks so much and make them even better. So that's my bit, and I would love to hear what you have to say about the splash pad. Mr. Olson.
Chair Sue, members of the commission, there will be a splash pad operational by the end of 2021 in Oceanside.
What are you talking about?
The El Corazon Aquatic Center will have a very large splash pad as part of that facility.
But what about the one that's that we paid for, that we put in and installed and has never been turned on? Mance Buchanan?
I believe it's at Mance Buchanan, correct. And you are correct. I believe the design did not call for recycled water. And if my memory and the information I've been provided is accurate, it was, the park was built and then we went through the very serious drought. And the concern was water that was not recycled. So
what do we need? We spent all that money to put it in. Can we just put a pump in? Like, I wish that that's something that we could explore. Or does it have to be completely like jackhammered out in order to put in a pump? Like, can we explore that a little bit?
We can explore. I can tell you from experience, it would be a very large project to convert that to, especially splash pads are very, there's a lot of elements because of the quick turnaround the water has in order to sanitize appropriately. But it's certainly something that I've had preliminary discussions about, but it would be a large project too.
It just seems wild that we paid the money to put it in and it's never been turned on. And I understand the El Corazon, but I also understand that taking your kid to a pool is very different than taking your kid to a park. I think that's one thing that Oceanside could really benefit from, is this non-aquatic center splash pad. But let's go ahead and move forward. Let's vote on this. I think the question that I have is everyone comfortable voting for it as is? Does anyone want to make any modifications? Commissioner Blankenship.
Commissioner Sue, I have a couple of questions.
Go for it.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. I certainly asked to know.
Being one of the last to ask questions, most of mine have already been asked and answered, so that's good. But I do have a couple of things. Going back to the $4,431 per unit, and the fact that Buccaneer Park is scheduled for $1 million in that amount of money that's been collected. And the fact that that money has to be used within 5 years, I'm curious as to where Buccaneer Park is in that, if it's likely that we're going to lose that funding, and if so, what are the options for Buccaneer Park? And some of the other places too that have been on this list, like the dog park, for example, for a number of years.
Commissioner Blankenship, Chair Sue, members of the commission, the money that's collected from the fees can be utilized anywhere throughout the city. It doesn't have to be tied to a specific location. And so it basically, as money comes in and money goes out, that basically is how that's tracked. And so it's not specifically tied to, you know, this unit has to be done. It's just a matter of the city has to spend money that within 5 years that was collected 5 years previous.
But if we don't do Buccaneer Park within the 5 years, then the money that is allocated.
We would just need to make sure we're doing other projects to have money out being flown to an outflow of money towards park-related capital improvement projects.
Okay, I think I understand that. Another area of questioning, and I don't want to step on your toes, Tom, but if you have to explain what a pump track is, how can we justify spending so much money on that particular activity?
Commissioner Blankenship, Chair Sue, members of the commission, bike facilities, which this is a component of bike facilities, we would not want to make it just one-dimensional for various reasons, but this was identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as the city lacking an adequate bike facility, and as our Bike and Pedestrian Committee has also identified and gone and looked at different ones, this would be something that would enhance the city of Oceanside's recreational opportunities to its residents and to its guests. In addition to it being identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, that was kind of the driving force to adding this and exploring bringing an element like this to this community.
You mentioned there is one in the area. How many are there in San Diego County, say, for example, or San Diego, Los Angeles County?
There's numerous ones in there. San Diego County probably has 5 or 6 in the county. Then you go into Riverside County. They're one of the more popular things that are being added to communities these days. They're not extremely expensive by capital improvement project standards. And there's lots of different ways to do it. You can have prefabricated ones. There are some that would fit on the size of a pickleball court. There are some that would fit in an entire baseball field. So there's a whole opportunity to identify one and something that would fit the community of Oceanside as identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and our Pedestrian and Bike Committee.
Okay, so just because I don't know what it is, it doesn't mean that a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I would say there's certain communities that like as a young mom, I know what a bike pump track is. Like this is something that kids, it's very popular with kids. I don't know if you've seen those like balance bikes where those kids don't have pedals, they just like move their little legs.
Yeah.
Super popular with that demographic, super popular with kids on scooters. They're a little bit more friendly to like, they're more universally friendly than like a skate park, which is kind of like very much for tricks, and there's kind of skateboards shooting off and your kid could get slammed in the head with a skateboard. Or this is kind of a little bit more of like user friendly for kind of all ages and all abilities. And yeah, it's there. I know when I speak to young moms, there's a lot of people drive to Temecula or they drive to Carmel Valley. Those are the closest ones to us. Wow, and they are driving to those locations for their kids.
The one in Temecula, for example, do they charge to use that?
No.
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 Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. One last thing I wanted to bring up, and that is we didn't talk much, I think it came up, but we didn't talk much about the new position, the associate engineer position. And I guess my question is that particular position is not going to fall under the purview of either the Parks and Rec or Neighborhood Services. And I'm only asking whether or not you're comfortable with that concept. The person is not going to be working for you. He or she is going to be working for someone else, reporting to somebody else, but yet doing work on behalf of Parks and Recreation. And does that seem to be the most efficient way to have that person have our best interest in mind?
Commissioner Blankenship, Chair Sue, members of the commission. It's an excellent question, and the capital improvement project program is entirely housed in the Development Services Department. So this is consistent with the program of the city. We have a great relationship in Parks and Recreation with the city engineer that oversees this component, and he's had numerous conversations with me about what would be needed in this position, specifically from Parks. So Parks-related experience being a priority as opposed to just general development. So there's been a great dialogue as we've planned for this and gone through it, and obviously it will be housed where it's consistent with the city program. But there's been some discussion about, just because it reports to a certain department, we would have a conversation about where does that individual actually located, so that there perhaps is more opportunity for collaboration on a real-time basis. So those conversations have gone through, and you're right to raise that question, but I'm confident that the structure that we have in place and the relationship we have with the city engineer and the time they've taken to recruit an individual with parks-related projects specificity will help us to start these projects moving in the right direction and then carry them through to completion.
And that person could be physically located with the rest of the Parks and Recreation folks so that they can get a feel for what y'all do. And
right, it's possible. Those are conversations that will continue to be had as, we work through. Obviously, COVID-19 has kind of made us separate ourselves a little bit, but, those conversations will continue. And as that individual is brought on board, we would identify what's going to be the best working model to ensure we're working in an efficient manner and making progress on these parks-related projects.
Would it be appropriate that you were part of the hiring process? Or is that not how that would work?
I've been involved in the recruitment process and have been working with them closely about being involved in the hiring process as well.
Great. Oh, it looks like Commissioner Sotilli has a question.
Hi, yes, and I don't know if this is the right area to discuss this, but I've noticed like condos being built by the pier, and I am just concerned that Parks and Rec isn't getting, prime land that we could use for parks for our citizens in areas like that. I think we should be allowed at least as good, if not better, land to open new parks, improve our parks, whatever. But again, I don't know if this is the right area, but I think we need to fight for land for our parks somehow.
Thank you, Commissioner Sotilli. Mark, do you have anything that you would like to address in that?
Commissioner Sotilli, appreciate that. That's always something that we're watching for as identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. There are certain areas. We have some park deficiencies as we work towards our build out in estimated 2035. And that plan does call for certain areas that could potentially be added. We do have the El Corazon site that could potentially be brought on board if funding is identified, and we're working through possible options with that. But your concern is appreciated because we're thinking of the same line about making sure our residents and our guests have access to good quality parks.
Yes. Did you have more, Commissioner Sotilli? I just want to make sure that you...
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. This is so fancy with the hand raising over there.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Franco.
I wanted to ask Mr. Olson kind of a blanket question about all the various proposals we're considering tonight and the future, and and already adopted and so on, and I wondered the extent to which ADA considerations are involved in the discussions and planning.
Commissioner Frankham, Chair Sue, members of the commission, the ADA program in the city would be implemented with any project that we have. You know, and from Parks and Recreation standpoint, inclusion is a huge thing. Take the pump track, for example. You know, we would want to make sure that if a project like that is funded and goes forward, that it is accessible to anybody to participate in those things. So that's something that's always at the forefront of our mind, not just in our programming, but also in the facilities that we build.
How about the presence of looking at enhancements, so wheelchair access to beaches or other kinds of considerations that are brought up periodically?
Obviously, any enhancement would generally trigger from a development standpoint. I can't speak with specificity. They would have more, but you know, generally anytime we do an upgrade to something, ADA components have to be implemented.
So we're meeting the basic requirement, but we're not doing much in the way of enhancement. Is that what I hear?
I don't know the specific, I'd have to know the specificity of what project you're referring to, and then I can certainly get the information from the appropriate staff that are working on that project.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to mention when anytime I get the chance is that we all know that La Salina water treatment facility is being phased out or nearly phased out. Parts of it will remain. And that, in my view, should be retained as park land. And I wanted everyone to realize that every developer for miles around will be looking at that once it's become purposed, and it is perfect opportunity to enhance South O and its park efficiency, and we need to keep our eye on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Frankham. I would also like to add, I feel like this park enhancements for $10,000, I think all of us, it just feels so vague, and we all have big hopes for it. And that makes me a little bit nervous because I think that is going to be unmet expectations. I think, you know, wanting to make small ADA enhancements at parks, I think that's something that we see reflected in the Parks Master Plan. I think if we can put in a couple of swings that are ADA compliant, or just a couple of different like touches, I think that that is what the community has requested, and I think we have a responsibility to do that. So, and I know that doesn't even, Mark, that doesn't even fall under you. I know the park enhancements doesn't fall under you, but I just want to make sure that that is, I would love in the future for Public Works to be here so we can express some of our ideas on our, what we would like to see as far as park enhancements. So, yeah, so let's move forward as far as this is an action item. Does anyone want to make any, I'm sure there's a word that I'm supposed to use, but any changes or any amendments to this, to the proposal? Or do we want to move forward and vote on it as is, or do we want to make any amendments?
I'm sorry, I thought you were actually requesting a modification when you talked about adding a language regarding ADA.
I don't think I can, because park enhancements is not under us. Truth?
Well, I think we could say something about ADA and.
Okay.
And,
Commissioner Sue, that's just to be clear, the enhancements is a fund that's there in the event something, it's not planned projects.
Exactly, yes.
It's in the event that something is needed. A bench goes down and we need to replace. So it's not planned projects.
Right, but you said like adding a bench.
Right, yeah, adding, replacing, enhancing to some extent based upon if needs change. If all of a sudden a park has more events than we anticipated and we need, like you stated, more trash cans, we have a funding source available.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily planned projects. It's there in reserve for things as they come up throughout the year. If the commission wanted to see something larger, they would need, you know, that would be a project specific or ADA enhancements that could be identified.
Okay, so Blankenship, is that something that you feel like that maybe that we add wanting ADA enhancement park-wide. I don't know how, or not at a specific park, but just making enhancements as we can. I don't know the language on that. What do you guys think?
Maybe encourage ADA updates.
Okay.
I'd like to, hi, Commissioner Wonder, I'd like to ask Mark, if something like this does come up in the future, how would we add this to this project? In other words, if we see something in one park that we really want some ADA equipment there, how would we go about that?
Commissioner Wonder, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're requesting how could you propose a specific project at a specific park?
Yes, to add ADA.
Commissioner Wonder, just, I mean, that's quite vague. I mean, we're getting into some vague areas as opposed to trying to identify things. If this is something I think the commission feels strongly about, perhaps you could make a recommendation to council to add funding for ADA enhancements at, you know, and have a fund if that is something that the council or commission would like to recommend.
Can I make a comment? This is Janae Alms.
Yes.
Mark, let me see if I understand what you're saying. This $10,000, I believe, is the number that we're talking about. That's like if I have a homeowners association, we have money in there in case water breaks or something, a tree dies or something like that. So it's not really set aside for anything particular except for fixing things or adding something small. So it doesn't really have to be decided what those things are. We just know we have a fund there that we have allocated this money for in case those kind of things happen or we need those kind of things.
Commissioner Alms, Chair Sue, members of the commission, that is exactly correct. It's there, it's a fund. For example, when the Balderrama Improvement Project was completed, a plaque was requested for the project. That plaque was utilized out of that, was purchased out of those funds that were set aside for park enhancements.
So this also, though, is not part of the capital improvement project proposal that we're looking at tonight, correct?
No, that was just by way of information that this is funded through that Parks Fund.
Okay, so I would like to, you're gonna want me to use words, Mark, certain special words. I would like to suggest before we do anything beyond that we do say that we would like to ADA enhancements at parks, that we would add this to the CIP proposal. So what words do you, what kind of professional, the language you want me to use as far as like, I make a motion, is that what you want me to do?
This is an actionable item, so we need a motion and a second, and then a vote to follow.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to adopt with the amendment of adding a ADA enhancement line item. Can I get a second?
I will second it. Genevieve, Commissioner Wonder will second.
Okay.
Would you be willing to add a dollar amount suggested?
I would be open to people's, yes, do you have a dollar amount in mind? Or, oh, Commissioner Blankenship says no dollar amount.
Well, I think what Mark is saying is this is not the time to be putting specific money on specific projects.
Okay.
This is the time to be looking at the big picture.
Okay.
This is the time to be saying, here's a chunk of money. Next time or the next time or the next time, we will come back to you with projects. Those projects are going to be paid for from this chunk of money. Let's define the project, and within that definition will be other things.
All right, Mark, would it be appropriate that we put an amount, or would that be better suited for your staff to do? Or, yes.
Commissioner Sue, I recommend moving forward with the motion that you presented.
As we did it, okay. Okay, so we have a second. Do we want to do a roll call vote? Okay. Is that Marissa's going to do that? Great.
Commissioner Alms,
No.
Commissioner Blankenship,
Yes.
Commissioner Frankum. Aye. Commissioner Ehrman,
No.
Commissioner Wonder,
Yes.
Commissioner Scafoni, Commissioner Murphy,
She's not voting.
oh yeah, Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Sotilli,
Yes.
Commissioner Soup.
Aye, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move along. Items for discussion, there's none, so let's move to the division report. I believe that we have a change in presenter. And we'll welcome him to the stand after Mark thoroughly disinfects. Is this as riveting as you would hope it would be? Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. Glad we could provide. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. I mean, we've also talked about that $2.5 million for 2 years. So.
Good evening, Honorable Chair Sue, and Chairman, and Council, and everyone here. My name is Jesse Montanez. I'm here to do an update for the Parks and Recreation Department. So a little backstory about me. My name is Jesse Montanez. I'm a Recreation Supervisor. I've been with Oceanside Parks and Recreation for 12 plus years. I oversee youth services, city-sponsored special events, contractual classes. I'm the liaison to the Samoan Cultural Committee and Eastside Neighborhood Association. I oversee summer camps and the Melba Bishop and Joe Balderrama Recreation Centers. A little fun facts about me: I love to play and watch sports. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I was born at Tri-City Medical Hospital. Hobbies: golf, working out, hiking, everything active recreation related. Okay, so first we're gonna go over summer programs. Even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, the City of Oceanside Parks and Recreation did a great job providing summer programs to all of those in the community. We offer them through our aquatics programs, our internal camps and sports, contractual programming, and then we went into our after-school programs, and then we did do some special events. Okay, so our aquatics this summer was a huge success. So much that we extended our surf camp all the way through November 19th. Typically it only runs through the summer, but we extended it because of the high demand. It was full all of our sessions, so we had a maximum of 459 enrollees. CSL classes, those are children learn to swim classes. Those are very important to the community and to the general population. We had max enrollments, 228 enrollees. Lap swim, the adults, we had 350 members. That's a membership. You can buy them annually, quarterly, or for half the year. So we had 7,901 entries through the time frame up there from June 1st, November 30th. And then the Lifeguard Academy, that was full capacity at 15. And the Lifeguard Academy, that's a program that we do to train young youth from all over the county to learn to become a lifeguard. And it's a good feeder program to our aquatics staff. And it's a very successful program. Okay, so camps, after-school programs, and contractual programming. So the internal summer camps and sports. So internal means those are city staff-run programs. So this last summer, even though we had the pandemic, and we did follow all of the COVID policies and procedures that the county enacted, we had 765 enrollments. The contractual programs and camps, we had 58 enrollments. Then the contractual programs this fall, we had 280 enrollees. And then the after-school program, this is for the first semester, we had 75 kids enroll in our after-school program. Okay, special events. Special events is huge here in the city of Oceanside. And even though we did have the pandemic, the Parks and Recreation staff did a great job providing special events to the local economy, to the city of Oceanside, and to the San Diego region. We kicked it off with the Samoan Cultural Festival, which is an annual festival here in Oceanside that honors the Polynesian heritage and the huge Polynesian community here in Oceanside. We did scale it back. It was held at the Melba Bishop Recreation Center. It's usually held down at the Junior Sail Beach Amphitheater. We did follow all protocols and COVID procedures. We had less than 100 participants, but it was a great event. The next one is the Surfer Girl Pro. That we did get a county approval with no spectators. It was a huge success, so much so that it's going to be airing on Fox Sports through mid-January. It was a great team effort, and one of the winning teams, the young woman who won, is from Oceanside, so that was an honor. The next thing is we had our tree lighting event, which is a huge success, but due to COVID, we had to do a virtual tree lighting event. We collaborated with KOCT and Santa Claus. Mayor Weiss did a great job. We had a wonderful response so far. It's going to be airing on KOCT, and it'll be on a loop, and you can also go to our Facebook page or our homepage at oceansiderec.com to look at that video. Outdoor permits for displaced businesses, churches, other businesses, fitness, gyms. We did a great job. We have, as you can see, 10 gyms, outside gyms using our parks and fitness classes. We've got 3 churches that are using our parking lots or open spaces at our parks to offer services for the community. And then 5 other businesses are using our outside spaces for their local businesses. So upcoming events. So we have right now in the queue waiting, that's what that means, is we have 29 future permits sitting in the queue just waiting for COVID-19 guidelines to process. And that's not including our annual events like the Ironman, beach soccer, beach flag football, Race Across America, and the longboard surf contest. And then lastly, I wanted to say that we had Animal Kingdom. They were filming for 2 weeks in November. And there's a huge success for the city of Oceanside. It brings a lot of revenue to the city, and it brings us national notoriety as a really great surf town. Okay, so the Heritage Park update. So this past year, we did some dwelling improvements to Heritage Park. And by the pictures up on the screen, you can see that we added new carpentry through the front entry and the living spaces, cabinets and paint, and we updated all of the faucets. The caretaker, we are looking for a new one. We had an application that was posted last month. We received 24 interest forms. Then we got 4 formal letters of intent. We did the interviews. They were held recently, and a formal offer has been made to the top applicant. Pending administration requirements, the new caretaker should start in early January. With that caretaker in place, they would help with the vegetation, the upkeep, the cleaning, the painting. It's a great win-win for the city. Senior services. Even though our senior services and our senior centers, unfortunately, were closed due to the pandemic, the high risk, our staff of the senior services department were working. They worked with the San Diego Food Bank. They're serving approximately 200 individuals on the second Monday of each month at Country Club Senior Center. It's a drive-through pickup. You pull your car up, they put the boxes in the back, and you go out. They're also helping out pets. So they did food distribution to pet owners. They do 75 individuals on the second Monday of each month, and that's also held at Country Club Senior Center. And both of those pickup spots are outside through the parking lot. So Pets Without Walls, they provide free spade and neutering on the second Tuesday And they do 5 to 6 individuals each month, and that's by appointment only. And then the serving seniors, they delivered over 350 breakfast and lunches to homebound seniors on a daily basis since April, when the pandemic has hit the community. And then also this year, the senior service staff will be delivering 200 plus Christmas bags to homebound seniors during the week of December 7th to give a little Christmas joy to those homebound seniors that desperately need some. Next is our senior transportation. So through April 1st and September 30th, during the pandemic, we had 994 rides that were provided by our volunteer drivers. FACT had 1,083 rides in Oceanside, and then TaxiScript had 1,125 rides. And then the homebound deliveries that went through grocery or the Go Van, or we did drop-offs for those that we identified that needed food. We did 3,500 home delivered meals to seniors and people in need out in the community. So upcoming, what do we have? Youth services staff, the 2 specialists, they were taught on this. We got Zoom calls with Santa. So that's gonna be December 15th and 17th. And what this is we're asking the kids and their parents to give us a little information, and Santa's gonna call them during the time that they've scheduled, and Santa's going to do a virtual, hi, how are you doing, to all the kids, boys and girls, and parents out there. It's our first year doing it. It filled up really quick, so we're really excited. We're collaborating with the libraries to pull that off. And then we have our winter 2021 brochure with all of our classes and programs. Programs are tentatively to start on January 4th. So please look at that. And you can find that at our website at oceansiderec.com. So projects. The first one up is the El Corazon Aquatic Center. So just to keep you guys up to date. So the concrete is complete for the whole entire project, and the pool, the surrounding area, the concrete is done. The interior of the banquet hall is 90% complete, and the carpet and audio / visual installment will begin soon, and it's next on the queue. Here's a video of it. It's a drone flyover, and this was provided from our fire department.
I'll jump in and narrate right here. What you're looking at is from the west end towards the east. On the left, you'll see the buildings. Those 2 structures, one's the instructional pool. That's the smaller pool, lower left corner. Above it, the dirt lot will be the splash pad. So you can see that it's a very large size splash pad. The pit to your right, for lack of a better term, will be the 52-meter competition pool. And as we zoom and pan, we're now looking north. You can see the bleachers with the covered awning. The bleachers underneath there are complete, and the fencing around the facility is going in at this time. To the right, you'll see the existing senior center and then the courtyard as they come around. Let's see if it will get there, but you can kind of see the enhancements to the courtyard that will eventually have a banquet and patio area. So we're pulling back. So now you can get a reference of where it is from the front of the senior center, looking west, and you'll see how it will blend nicely. See the buildings on the right to the back. Those are the new buildings, and I think it's great that it blends seamlessly with a facility that was built about 10 years ago. In the horizon there, you can see the SoCal parking lot as well as the soccer fields, just to give you a point of reference. Again, now looking from the north towards the south, you're looking at the front of the new facility. The larger building on the left with the high ceiling is the banquet facility, about 5,600 square feet. To its immediate right is the entry and the lobby. And then the further right buildings are the support buildings where the pump and utilities of the facility will be housed.
So just to follow up with Mark said, these pictures also are of the one on the top left, that is the competition pool. The one on the right is also a view of the competition pool. And then the far right, upper right one, that is the entry between the two, the banquet and the aquatics area. The bottom left, that is the entry point out to the courtyard from the existing or the new banquet hall. And that's the looking out from the banquet hall, the new windows out looking towards the courtyard. So with that, Chair Sue and members, any questions?
Great report. Thank you.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you so much.
Okay.
Commissioner Sotilli?
I just want to say that that looks very nice so far, and I think when it's finished, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sotilli, thank you so much.
This is Mark Herman. When is it scheduled to open?
Commissioner Herman, Chair Sue, members of the commission, we are anticipating a late summer of 2021.
Thank you.
Were most of the camps and like the surf camp and the children learn to swim, was enrollment or the capacity for those classes limited than it has been in the past years because of COVID?
Chair Sue, that is a great question. The surf camp, the numbers did increase because of an outdoor, and the kids can maintain social distancing outside, and there was the fresh air and they're in the water. So we did increase the weekly enrollment.
Okay.
And because there's such a high need for it, we had a large wait list, so we did increase that. The Learn to Swim was maxed out, and that's all we could take due to the size of the classes and COVID-19 restrictions.
Okay, so were the class sizes made smaller?
Yes, they were smaller.
Okay, all right.
Except the surf camp.
Except for surfing, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. I would like to offer our thanks to the fire department for making this drone footage available. It's really helpful for us to get a handle on what's going on up there and making it visual. And thank you, Mr. Olson, for your impromptu description of all the various aspects of it.
My pleasure, Chair, or Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Tom. And that was courtesy of the fire department and Ron Owens. And I believe it is on there's a YouTube channel, so anybody in the public can go look and access the same video that you saw today.
Okay.
Chairperson Sue.
Yes, Commissioner Blankenship.
Hi. First of all, excellent report of all the programs. The Parks and Recreation Department has certainly Very active.
Thank you.
With regard to Heritage Park, Mark, is there going to be any changes in the days of the week that the park is open to the public?
Commissioner Blankenship, Chairperson Sue, members of the commission. At this time, we did keep the same park hours with the new caretaker coming on based upon what traditionally has been done. But as that new individual comes on and we develop a different relationship or understanding, we would look to reevaluate that. There has been a request to open that. Currently, it's open Wednesday through Sunday. There has been some requests to make that daily, and so we would need to work with the individual to see if there's some modifications and some staffing resources that can be allocated towards that to make that possible. Right now, the plan is to continue, especially right now during our the COVID situation that we're going through and our limited staffing resources to keep things as they were.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Commissioner Linder.
Mark, this is in regards to Heritage Park. I just received a text message from one of our citizens that wants to volunteer at Heritage Park. How is the organization, the volunteer organization, being worked into this plan with Heritage Park and the new arrangements?
Commissioner Wunder, Chairperson Sue, members of the commission, we are in a situation where we're not actively giving tours right now because of the COVID situation, but Parks and Recreation staff assigned to that facility have actually developed a very robust educational program that they had intended to implement this spring. Obviously, that was challenged and changed, but it was and will be planned to incorporate educational components in working with the local school districts and developing tours and to try and establish a tour program and an educational program with the local community. So it was planned, it was being prepared to be implemented, and volunteers obviously would be a vital component of pulling something like that together. So as we start to see the restrictions lifted, hopefully in the not too distant future, we will seek to re-implement what was going to be implemented this past spring.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for?
Hi, this is Terry. I have a question on the old swap meet site where they're supposed to build a surf wave pool. Is that a private venture or is that a public venture?
Commissioner Sotilli, that is a private development.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thank you, Chair Sue,
Yes.
and all of the members of the Parks and Rec Commission, and Peter Weiss, Mayor. Thank you.
We're going to move on to reports. I know that this has an order, but if anyone has anything that they would like to report, we would love to hear it. Just your experiences in the parks, your experience with Parks and Rec staff, anything that you have to share with the commission would be excellent. And I, as the chairperson, am on here first. I don't have much. I know that it was very nice having the playgrounds open. They were open for a short while and now they're closed again, but that was awesome having them open. And I hope they are open again soon. And it sounds like that San Diego is asking to have playgrounds taken off the list. So hopefully that can happen. But yeah, hopefully our playgrounds are open again soon. And that's all that I have as far as a report. Vice Chairman Herman, do you have anything to report?
Just that over the last several months, my wife and I have been spending a lot of time at the Buccaneer Beach Park, and we're excited to see what the end result of all of the improvements to that area will be. And I also wanted to mention that as of January 1st, I'm cutting back my work hours to a half-time, so that will give me additional time during the week to spend on matters such as the Parks and Rec Commission. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Anyone else have anything to report? Everyone doing well?
This is Janae Alms. And I just wanted to share that through this, the pickleball community at Melba Bishop, we're all very good at following the COVID restrictions. And it's very active as far as people are still really wanting to play. They want to be out and exercising. And just to let you know, there's still such a desire and need for more courts, but to let you know that they are very appreciative of the city and everything that they're doing to allow them to continue to play with the restrictions and what we have in place.
Yes. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
are you looking for volunteers? I wanted to mention that with the start of the COVID thing a few months back, my bride of 57 years and I decided to go walking each day, and we've expanded that to like at least 3 miles most days. And we walked around our neighborhood the first month or two and decided, I mean, we're looking at the same stuff every day. So we expanded it, and I should have brought it. We track our walking route on a map of the city every day. So I have marks all over the city. We've walked through tons and tons of different neighborhoods. And the one outcome that we've discovered is that it has considerably enhanced our satisfaction and happiness with our city. The architecture, the trees, the layout, it's just been a really enlightening experience. It's the kind of thing you'd never do. I mean, you go your same route to and from your same places, right, every day. It's really been a broadening experience.
Yeah, I love that. Silver linings in 2020.
That's it.
I will say, since being on the commission, that has been a goal of my family, is to go to as many parks as we can. And that has been part of it's been so wonderful to see so many awesome parks that we don't normally go to that are in our neighborhood, but also just makes me feel like there's just so many that are so close to excellent. So that's what I just want to reiterate. I really think that we can make so many of our parks just truly excellent with just little tiny touches. So I don't think we have anything else.
I do.
Yes.
Commissioner Wonder.
Commissioner.
As you know, the Friends of Oceanside Parks and Recs, we have the summer concerts, and because of this virus, of course, we have not had any concerts at all. So I'm looking for assistance from the city and perhaps the Park Commission. I would like to do a virtual concert, but I need a location in order to set up that arrangement. I have a band, I have a sound system, but I need a location. Are we able to do that, Mark? Anywhere in the city, El Corazon or something like that?
Commissioner Wonder, an internal facility? Is that what I'm understanding?
Either internal or outside, whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure we can accommodate that. So let's touch base offline outside of this meeting, and we can work on getting that plan set up.
Okay, I'd just like to also share that I have been receiving a lot of emails from the entertainment group out there asking what our status is. So thank you very much for that.
Okay, let's move along. Setting of agenda for next meeting. Our next meeting is in January, I believe. Our next scheduled meeting, is that true?
Yes, and just to give the commissioners an update, the next meeting will be our first meeting will be in January of 2021. That will be after the council has been presented the staff report to modify the schedule. So at that time, there will be an agenda item to set the schedule for that based upon the action item of the city council. So that will be one item that will be on
The agenda.
the agenda, is the setting of the calendar, regardless of what the council action is on that.
Okay.
We would need to set the schedule and adopt that. So that would be one thing that's on there.
Okay. Other items, I know that we had talked about, there was a renaming of a skate park. Would that be something we can add to the agenda?
That would
the
be
right
on
time?
that would most likely be on that agenda as well, just to ensure that there's enough time to prepare a staff report for city council consideration based upon what this commission feels. As you'll remember, last time we presented you with the policy, just so that the commission members were familiar with it, and it would be this body's responsibility to recommend to the city council any parks or facilities that should be considered for renaming for council action.
Okay. I think this is the first time I've had to set an agenda, so if there's anything else that we need to bring up or add to it. Nothing from Franco. I know that there's a couple of things that we kind of dropped off when we were in January that we're planning on having. One of those was a presentation from a biking group. Is there a possibility to get that on the agenda?
Chair Sue, that Parks and Recreation staff have stayed in communication with the local liaison for USA BMX.
Okay.
They are very interested in making a presentation to this body and are targeting the first part of the year. And so if that works for them, we would look to put that on the agenda if they can in fact make that. Some of their staff are local, but some of them are also in the Midwest. And so they would need to coordinate that.
Figure that out. Okay. And then the other thing that I can think of was the Commissioner Loftus had volunteered to, who's no longer on the committee or on the commission, he had volunteered to be the liaison with some like homeless information. But we had asked for someone from the police department to come and make a presentation or a report giving us information about the safety of parks and whether, you know, what I'm interested in is, are there incidents happening in the parks that we're not hearing about? A huge concern that I hear of is like, oh, are Oceanside parks safe? And there's kind of a general feeling it's an unknown thing. And I want to know if that's a perception problem or if that's a real problem. So wanting to know from the police department, who I know, Mark, I've spoken to, and you're like, well, they're a little busy. And I understand that, but I would also, it's been a year. So I would love to hear about, are our parks safe? Are there incidents happening in parks? Are there a lot of calls to our parks? That kind of stuff. So I would love for that, if not in January, in March or soon.
Chairperson Sue, we've identified the individual in the police department and they're willing to do that.
Great.
Provided they're free to do it. But
Available?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay.
But we've been working with them and we've identified who would be the community officer to present that.
Okay, great. Is there anything else as far as setting the agenda that anyone has? And also, I think we'll feel free to email Mark or Terry throughout the next month if there's something that you would like to see on that agenda.
Okay.
True? Yes.
Yeah.
Is someone talking? Commissioner Sotile?
Oh, I just had a question if we're going to be doing every 2 months this year.
I believe we're waiting on approval.
Okay.
That was our plan to go every other month, but we needed approval to change our schedule. Any other items? Okay, then let's, shall we adjourn? We shall adjourn.